They ate the Prime Minister. Quite a gruesome sentence, isn't it? But it was exactly what happened in the Netherlands in 1672, the year that went into the history books as the disaster year for the Dutch Republic. But to completely understand it, I first have to tell you a bit about the history of the Netherlands. The founding father of the Netherlands was a German nobleman called William of Orange. And he was a very popular man, and after his murder, almost everyone in the Netherlands saw the descendants of Orange as the true leaders of the country. And it happened to be that the descendants of Orange were in quite a lot of power. Not only were they stadholder over the province of Holland, the wealthiest and most powerful province of the Netherlands, they were also the leader of the entire Dutch army. And of course, when someone has a lot of power, they are bound to misuse it. And so it came to be that Prince William of Orange II, grandson of William of Orange, committed a coup. He established a dictatorship and locked all political leaders up in a castle, Slot Loevestein. When he died, his son, Prince William III, was only a baby, so the leadership of the entire republic fell to someone else, called Johan de Witt. I recommend that you remember that name, because he happened to be the Prime Minister. Hello, I'm Nemo, and welcome to episode 12 of Sadly Strange. The strange subject that we are discussing today is the murder of the brothers de Witt, better known internationally as that one time when people in the Netherlands ate their Prime Minister. And that sentence gets a lot of question marks from people outside of the Netherlands, understandably. It is gruesome, it is shocking, and whenever it is mentioned online, people don't often get into the details, so I thought I'd make an episode dedicated to it. I have to admit, it is one of my favourite parts of Dutch history, perhaps because it was so shocking. I mean, this time period, the Dutch Golden Age, was a part in history class that, if you live in the Netherlands, you have to know everything about to pass your exams. And imagine that you're sitting in class hearing endlessly about politics and economics, and then suddenly, bam, one of the most gruesome murders in Dutch history. Perhaps even of the entire world history. That is quite a title to live up to, and trust me, it does. So, without any further ado, let's get into the story. Johan de Witt was blamed for everything that went wrong. Under his rule, the Republic had flourished as the greatest trading nation in the world, and the Netherlands possessed the greatest fleet upon the sea under the command of the great admiral Michiel de Ruyter. But when war broke out on four fronts and economic troubles began, Johan was the one who people blamed. People probably even went around stubbing their toes and blaming him, like thanks Obama, but instead thanks Johan. But there was one person the people seemed to hate even more, and that was Johan's brother, Cornelis de Witt. Cornelis was Johan's right-hand man and was suspected of conspiring to murder Prince William III. He was captured and thrown into prison after being tortured profoundly, and eventually he was sentenced to be banished. So on the 20th of August, Johan went to pick up his brother from prison. When they were inside, however, a mob gathered outside the prison gate. They barged inside and dragged the brothers out into the square. They were oppressed by the crowd, their heads caved in by spears, and then their bodies were hanged upside down from a great pole. Their throats were cut so that all their blood came gushing out. They looked like slaughtered animals. Everything that could be cut loose from the bodies were cut off. Fingers, toes, lips, noses, tongues, eyelids and genitalia. You can still see the tongue of Johan and the finger of Cornelis on display in the Historical Museum in The Hague. The heart of Johan was cut out of his body and thrown into his face. The pieces of the bodies were wrapped into handkerchiefs to keep as memorabilia or to be sold. Some parts were even thrown to the dogs. And some were eaten by the crowd themselves. But now, you mustn't think that this was just some angry mob of low-life criminals and other scum. No, it had been a conspiracy of which even the Prince of Orange had been aware, and some very high-standing people in society took part of it. The National Guard should have protected the brothers as they were dragged out into the square, but instead members of the Guard were actually part of the conspiracy and made sure that the mob could proceed with the lynching of the two men. In his book about the murder, Ronald Prudhomme van Reyne calls it the blackest page in the history of the Dutch Golden Age. Although I can imagine one small thing that might have been a bit worse that happened in the Dutch Golden Age, namely, slavery. I do agree that the murders of the brothers de Witt was gruesome, horrible, barbaric, and certainly a bit strange. And you know what is even stranger? During this horrible murder, this slaughter, someone actually made a painting of the whole scene. You can see it on display at the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam. It is called The Corpses of the Brothers de Witt, if you want to Google it. So, that was the story of when they ate the Prime Minister. It is quite a lot, isn't it? I cannot imagine that you can hate a person so much that you are willing, not only willing, but like planning, conspiring to kill them, and then not just kill them, just like bashing their head in with a spear, but actually completely slaughter them, hang their bodies from a pole and disfigure them, and then proceed to eat them. Eat them! I cannot imagine it, true. It is a nauseating thought that that people are capable of doing that you can hate someone so much. And the reason people killed Johan and Cornelis was basically based on nothing. So they were very angry on Johan because he had made some political decisions they thought that he actually didn't do, like the majority vote was just against his vote, so he just had to do it. And people hated Cornelis because they thought that he was conspiring to kill the prince, which wasn't even true. He didn't. There was just one guy who claimed that Cornelis had offered him 30,000, I don't know which coin they used, gulden, to kill the prince, and Cornelis was just like, no, that is not true. But of course, they didn't believe him. So what is actually thought is that some people, namely the Prince of Orange, was responsible for spreading rumors about the brothers because, well, they just wanted them out of the way. They just wanted to kill them, and they thought that that was the best way. And I cannot imagine that you hate people so much. Maybe it wasn't hate. Maybe it was just like power that people wanted, and they wanted the two of the most powerful political men of the Netherlands dead. I think that's just it. It is a nauseating thought. So, what are your thoughts about this piece of strange history? You can always contact me or message me on social media. I really love reading your messages. It makes my day. Both the website and social media are called Dr. Nemo's Cabinet of Curiosities. And thank you for listening to this episode of Certainly Strange, a podcast about the unexplainable. Everything about the podcast and my other projects can be found on my website, drnemoscabinetofcuriosities.com. There you can also find the transcript of this episode and the sources I used in my research. For this episode, those were all in Dutch, so I don't know if that is very helpful for you, but you can still see the sources I used. And once again, thanks for listening.